If you've done Meta ads for really any period of time, you are well aware of the fact that Meta loves interface changes. Well, guess what? Not only do we have another interface change, this is actually the biggest one we've had in years. So let's go ahead and dive right in and see how things are going to change moving forward for your campaign setups. All right, cool. So here we are inside my account. So I'm going to go ahead and click on create. I'm going to just choose randomly leads for this one. It doesn't really matter what you choose. I'm not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty details of how to properly set up a campaign. I do have a separate video for that, which you can go ahead and check out in the corner right now. But here, I'm just going to focus on the interface changes. So previously, if you've been advertising on Meta before, you knew or you remember that the campaign level was very basic. You choose your objective, your campaign name, and that was basically it. Now there are some smaller nuanced differences here. Nothing earth-shattering, so to speak, but differences big enough to be aware of. So you'll recall right here that at the campaign level, you could choose your Advantage Campaign Budget Plus, which was their terrible name for campaign budget optimization. So you still can do that. However, they just outline it here a little bit differently, right? So there's as opposed to being an on-off switch for campaign budget versus not campaign budget. Now they clearly outline, okay, either you can have the budget at the campaign level or at the ad set level, and they explain what the difference is between all these. I do think that this is actually an upgrade because when new people would hop in and just be here at the campaign level and it would say, do you want Advantage Campaign Budget Plus on or off? It was just very vague as to what that actually meant. So I actually think that this brings a little bit more clarity as people move forward in terms of putting together their campaign. Quick caveat though, if you choose ad set and you go about and start creating your campaign and you ultimately only have one ad set, it's not going to let you choose ad set level budget. It's going to force you choose to go with the campaign level budget. So that's just one quick thing to be aware of right there. Here you can still modify your objective, so no difference right there. Auction type, obviously we're all doing the auction type bidding. And then another interesting change here is that you can set up your A/B test right here if you want to be doing A/B testing. Now, if you've watched my channel for any extent, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook's A/B testing tool, their built-in tool. I'm a much bigger fan of just creating separate campaigns and testing whatever the variables that you want to be testing, say audience 1 versus audience number 2 or anything like that. So, I'm not going to go through the tutorial on how to set it up right here, but it is just important to note that now that ability is at the campaign level. All right, cool. So now we're going to go to the ad set level, and this is where I would say there are the biggest amount of changes. So no change right at the top. You can still choose where your conversion location is. I would say at least 95% of the time, right? You're going to be doing a website location. So that's completely normal right there. And then you select your conversion event. We'll just go with lead on this one here. And then you don't know why they keep on putting this dynamic creative button here. Dynamic creative actually is going away. It's being phased out. I would have figured that with this big interface change that this would have been completely gone, but whatever, it's still there. So for any of you big dynamic creative fans, you can still select it right there. And then you have your start date and your other settings here, budget scheduling if you're doing a lifetime budget. Nothing really different here at all. The change comes down into the audiences right here. So here the audience settings are slightly different from what you've been seeing in the past or the most recent past. So it says right here, limit who can see your ads. I find that to be interesting phrasing simply because as more time goes on, they just kind of open up their targeting to whoever they want to target. That's the whole thing about Advantage Plus, and actually Advantage Plus now is automatically on. There is no way to turn it off. There's like a light version. You can almost think of like Advantage Plus Lite that I'll show you in a second. But regardless, Advantage Plus is always on. If you're unaware of what Advantage Plus is, I have an explanatory video that you can check out in the corner right now. But here you select your custom audiences if you want to be targeting custom audiences. And then you can also go down here to DSO targeting, choose your age range, all that kind of stuff. Nothing really crazy or different right here. It's just kind of the more so the layout and the way that it appears that is changing. What is different here is that if you recall, here it used to say, I believe, switch back to original interface or something like that, where you wouldn't be using Advantage Plus targeting. Now, I think this is very funny personally. They have a button here that says further limit the reach of your ads. So that phrasing obviously is very negative. It's like, oh, I don't want to limit the reach of my ads. Like, why would I do that? I want to get in front of more people. And so it's very intentional on their part. They really, really want people to be on their normal targeting, which, by the way, the normal targeting works really great for a lot of people. I would even say for in most cases, in very small scenarios, I do still see the original targeting setup to work better. So, my ultimate point here is that don't let the scary language there scare you. That if it's ultimately better and you get better results, then go ahead and do it. But even when you click on further limit the reach of your ads, you even get this big pop-up warning. Only switch setups if you need to limit who your ads reach to a specific age range, gender, or custom audience. And then it even says right here, potential outcomes are going to have lower cost setup. So notice what they specify here: specific age range, gender, or custom audience. So when we actually switch over, there isn't actually that big of a difference. So you were previously switching Advantage Plus targeting on and off when you would do that. Now, when I switch over, notice here that Advantage Plus is still on. So at this point, there is no way to turn off Advantage Plus. We are all using that moving forward. The only changes here is that if I go to detail targeting and I go to age range, I get the full spectrum of 18 to 65 plus. Whereas if I go to the quote unquote recommended setup, when I go to more controls, the only control I have for the age range is this one where I can do the minimums, right? 18 to 25. So it's really more specific to if you're a business that you're targeting a very specific age range, and you have to go with this setup over here, and you can do the whole 1865 thing. The other thing to note is that while they both use Advantage Plus, there is a slight difference here, right? So here, when you put in your detailed targeting, it's very much going to lean into that detailed targeting. Yes, it'll eventually expand out and, get in front of other people, but it's more of a direct targeting strategy. Whereas if I go to the recommended setup, they even tell you right here, like they're very honest. Like you can suggest an audience. Like, I don't know if we're going to actually go after that audience, but sure, go ahead and put something in. And so that's what I was saying earlier between Advantage Plus and Advantage Plus Lite. You can almost think of this one here of further limit the reach of your ads. It's still going to go beyond who you target, but do to a lesser extent. Whereas if you just do their recommended setup, right, it's going to really, really expand out, which again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We've had good results with it. So at the end of the day, you want to test and just see what's best for your business. So that's pretty much it when it comes to whether you're doing a leads campaign or a regular sales campaign. However, there are some additional differences if you are doing a catalog campaign. So let's go ahead and quickly take a look at that. I'm gonna do sales right here. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are doing catalog ads, everything basically here that I talked about already at the campaign level is going to be the same. The differences come again at the ad set level. You're gonna be able to choose between these two options right here. Find prospective customers, even if they haven't interacted with your business. So just think of that as cold traffic targeting, and then retarget ads to people who interacted with your products on and off Facebook. So again, that's just your typical retargeting strategy. So the interface does change quite a bit when you choose between the two. So if I go over to retarget ads, now I can choose between, view or added to cart to purchase, change the date range and all these kinds of stuff. And if I go back to find prospective customers, then it's going to give me that same interface where I can choose detailed targeting if I want to. But again, it's really saying that this is just a very small suggestion and it's going to for sure go beyond that. And you have the same little warning there of further limiting the reach of your ads. So that is the breakdown. There are no new changes yet at the ad level. Everything here is still very much the same, so nothing new to worry about right there. All right, and there you have it. That is the breakdown of this latest interface change. It certainly will not be the last one. Overall, though, I actually do think this is a pretty solid one. I usually get very frustrated with these interface changes, but I actually think that the way they've set it up now, it just provides a lot more clarity, especially to people who are new to the platform. Obviously, if you've been on the platform for a long time, such as myself, these interface changes, they didn't really phase you in any kind of way, shape, or form because we kind of just roll with the punches. But I could always see how, okay, this can be very confusing the way it visually shows for a new person. So I actually think that this is a pretty smart move right here. But let me know about this interface change. What are your thoughts? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you pretty neutral about it? Let me know. And as always, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.